Everybody, it's Videobob. Now, I don't generally do like car how-to videos, so probably the people who have found this video, other than my normal subscribers, were looking for this. So, you know, one of my favorite cars is this Cadillac CTSV Wagon. This is the 2014. I have two of these. And this one is my new one that's replacing my other one. And I wanted to do a color change on the interior, as you know from the title. And we were in the middle of this, and I thought, you know, we were trying to find out some information about this, and we were searching the web, and we just weren't finding anything. And I thought, you know, I really should document some of this, even though we've done a lot of the work already, just to help people out, for the people who want to do this in the future. So as you know, almost every Cadillac has this hideous color for the upper section of it. They didn't start changing that until, you know, the 2016 cars, when they started doing that Alcantara. The coupe, however, the CTSV coupe did have a black interior, which is how I've gotten some of the parts that I'm going to talk about. Now, this is a fabric, and GM calls this titanium. And then there's plastic parts as well. But there's certain parts you're not going to be able to paint, or at least not very well. Now, since they did make a black interior coupe, you can find things like the visors, your control panel, which I don't have it here, you know, but like it would be really difficult to paint this. I mean, taping this off, I mean, you could do it, but you've got rubber buttons here, and you'd have to take this all apart to do it properly. But I found one of these in black for not a lot of money. Same thing with the visors, but you're gonna have a harder time finding some of the other parts, like for instance, these side pillars. I haven't been able to find these in black. And they're put together, they're welded, plastic welded together, so you can't remove this thing to paint it. So we're gonna just have to paint it and then let it dry and then move it, then paint it again. There's gotta be no easy way of doing that. Now, obviously these cover airbag. Now these have all been removed, but I was just gonna let you see the back of it, because the way a lot of these airbag systems are set up, they're set up in such a way that this thing is supposed to, you know, kind of blow off and let the airbag out to save you. So it's held in, you know, with a screw up top, and then just snaps in. I'll show you the back side of these A-pillars. As you can see, you've got a thing that snaps in here, it goes up, and then these just pop in. Most of all of the body panels just pop in, like Legos. I don't know if there's anything in particular over here that was like the seat belt. So we'll show you some things that we learned messing with this. Now we've got the headliner down, and we're going to get to that. But like, in order to get that side pillar out that holds the seat belt in place, this thing here comes apart, and actually you take this screw out, and this thing comes apart. I don't know why you put this back together. Anyway, it comes apart. If I can, you're supposed to do this with like a screwdriver or something. Anyway, it snaps together, and the seat belt, wherever the other end of it is, the important part is, you see this, it attaches like that, and the screw holds it in. But that's how you get it out. So you separate this piece of plastic, it pops apart. There it is. Okay, so this would be inside of here, fits on those two holes, and then the piece of plastic holds it in, and that's what holds that in. So, because I've seen all kinds of people trying to figure out how do you separate the seat belt to get the panel out. Well, that's how you do it. So our cameraman James here, he's been taking this headliner apart and could not figure out where the wiring harness goes, because it runs up under the dash. So what I wanted to point out here is it runs down the pillar, down under the dash, and then plugs in right there. And simply this panel just pops off. Just pops right off. And plugs in right there. The reason we mention this is because we saw another video of another couple of guys who were doing the same kind of project on a slightly different car. And they didn't realize that you could get the harness off. So the harness is glued to the top of the headliner. There's quite a bit of stuff going on this headliner. And they just pulled the whole harness off and left it because they didn't know how to unplug it. So this is why I'm making the video, to show off a couple of things. I'm not going to do a big, long, big part series and make you watch us doing a time lapse of removing each part. You know how to do that, but there's some basic things you want to know. You don't want to use metal tools. You want to use the plastic trim removers. Go to your local Harbor Freight or body shop and get plastic trim removers. Make sure your hands are clean. Wear gloves. You're going to cut your little fingers doing this a lot. So wear gloves and knuckle protectors, and try not to be too forceful. You know, when you're pulling the panel, you can sometimes break the clip that holds the little Christmas tree or whatever piece is in there. So the trick is you want to try to get a long handle. Some of the ones are metal with a little moon shaped thing on there. You want to get that back under there. Take a flashlight look and see where the pin is and pop it out to keep from breaking these parts. If you do break it, you can use some plastic glue, and you can buy the little plastic clips, you know. So just to like look at the backs of these, because I couldn't find any photo references of like what the back of this thing looked like, because you don't know how it comes out. But you basically have these things. Now these are pretty good. These are pretty sturdy. You've got this clip on the bottom, but you can see how there's a stress there from where it was pulled out. Now, if you really wanted to, you could remove this fabric and have it recovered. But what we're going to do is we're going to paint all of this stuff using fabric and upholstery paint. But I can tell you from some quick experience, we already did the back, and we'll take a look at the back hatch because it's already been done. And you can see how it came out. It came out great. I mean, look, it's nice and black. And all this had to be removed. What you're going to find on a lot of these panels like this is attached to this carpet piece with some like little threaded nut things that go onto the plastic. That's also on here too. Sometimes you're going to want to get those and replace them all together, or use some other method, because when you get them off, they're a one-time use type of fastener. But anyway, the first time I painted this, the paint didn't stick, because basically they do kind of a Scotch guard or like a protectant on all of the plastics and the fabric in here. This is like a polyester or whatever this is. It's a foam backed material. If you were going to have this removed and then put back on like an Alcantara or something like the newer ones, you'd want to have a real upholstery shop do that, and it's going to be kind of a lot of trouble. And the reason I'm decided to paint instead of recovering it is because it's just been my experience in the past that these are kind of a one-time use thing. This thing is formed in a big forming machine. It's basically lint. It's basically like a cotton polyester blend that's pressed using a glue, and it's just a one-time use kind of a thing. And you can see how the damage that's on these little catch pins here. So we may want to replace some of these before we put this back in. You can order these online, because once they've been damaged and chewed up like this, they're not going to stick the same, and then it's going to hang down and flop around. So I would recommend, you know, you can order these little deals. I don't know the exact name of it, but look at how it's all chewed up, right? So we're going to want to replace those and get new ones. If you go to GM and get them, they're going to cost a fortune, but you can get them, you know, online. You get like, you know, I think I bought a bag of 100 of them that I'm waiting on, but the problem is they come from China. But I think I get them for like $10 or something, or, you know, for 100 of them, you know. But if you go to GM, they probably charge you like $2-3 a piece for those things, which ain't that big a deal, because you only need a couple of them anyway. There's only what, 1, 2, 3, you know. So if you have to go down like dealer and get them, it ain't a big deal. You can see how they basically hot glued all this stuff in place, which is pretty funny. It's probably a high temp hot glue or an epoxy that they use to put all this stuff in. It's pretty interesting. Now the hard part is, now we're doing the wagon, of course. Oh, and I'm jumping around subjects. Let me go back to this. So the first time we painted this, it didn't stick. So this is what you got to do, and we're going to show this here in a minute. You want to wash your part down with alcohol. You're going to want to scuff it up a little bit with a Scotch-Brite sponge, some alcohol, let that dry. Then you're going to want to use an adhesion promoter, which you can buy from you know, a lot of different places. I went and got some from local English Color body shop supply. It's kind of expensive. It's like 20 bucks a can, but you just put a light coat on the parts that you know are going to be touched a lot. You're not going to be touching your headliner probably ever, but things like handles, and I mean, I've literally painted steering wheels and seats and they were fine. So this is really good stuff. We're going to remove this headliner out of here, and it's probably going to be something that looks like the Three Stooges getting it out. This is going to be fun. All right. I'm going to figure out how to get this thing out. Yeah. See, it's already been cracked right here. I think maybe go forward with it. Then it needs to kind of go sideways. So like lift up on it. I'm going to get it kind of diagonal.
So, yeah, these headrests come on?
They do, but not. I want to get this diagonal. It's the back, biggest. We can just get that down. And have that side up and get it out sideways. I'm thinking. Where's the catch it?
Catch it right here.
Hold on in.
Okay, now we're ready to catch one. It's out, there we go. That wasn't nearly as bad as it got. Didn't have to compress as much as this.
Oh, there it is. Okay, just to show you what's inside your car in your CTS-V Wagon, if that's what you have. Check out this airbag. This airbag goes the entire length of the car, all the way back there. Pretty impressive. You can see some of your inner workings here. You know, the controls that operate the lift gate there, and more of that airbag. Pretty impressive work in engineering. Lot of stuff going on up in your roof. You know, it just looks like it's just covered up in there, but there is a lot of things going on. The sunroof and the controls for the lift gate, and there's a computer box up there, and wiring galore. You start to understand why these cars are so expensive. Look, you see the drain tube there that runs down. You want to clean that periodically, if you can see what I'm talking about there. That little drain tube coming out of your sunroof. Those get clogged and then you get leaks. But very impressive what's going on under here. Okay, this is the headliner out of my CTS-V Wagon. It's been spray painted with the vinyl coating. It's a flexible coating that has built-in adhesion promoter, and I just bought it from Pep Boys, regular old interior fabric paint. You know, remember, this is called titanium, and it does have a sheen. So out here in the sunlight, which this will never see, it does have a little bit of a sheen where it fools you into thinking that maybe you're seeing a spot that you didn't get painted, when in reality it's just sort of a reflective type material, and it really does take on that Alcantara effect. You know, once it's in the car and it's dark, you're not going to see that sheen, but you know, so any spots that look like spray over spots, I don't think are going to show once in the car. And here's some parts that we have laying out that have been cleaned with alcohol and scrubbed with a Scotch-Brite, and we're preparing them to get painted. So the handles and things that are going to be touched, we're going to give a little extra attention. We're going to use an adhesion promoter on those plastic parts, because those are things that you're going to be handling possibly, and those places we want to put a little extra care. All right, we got this headliner back in, and learned a couple of things. That the brackets that hold the retaining clips are hot glued to the underside of this thing. You want to be really careful not to tug on the headliner itself whenever you're pulling these out. Make sure that your tool that you're using, your popper, is on the physical plastic rivet, and you're not tugging on the headliner. Whatever you do, don't do that, because what'll happen is the bracket that holds the little Christmas tree thing will begin to separate from the material, and then there's no way to fix it. You'd have to rip it off and re-debride the area, re-glue it or something. It would be a nightmare. We've gotten, this plastic stuff, it turned out really well. And when you're in here, when it's all darkened in here, you can't really see any runs or imperfections or anything like that. But I'm really happy with the way this turned out, and I'm really concerned about how well the paint is going to work for things like this little coat hook. I travel all the time, and I'll put my coat hangers hanging on this thing with my suit jackets and things, which is that's not what this is for, but that's what people do with it. That's what this little coat hanger is for. So I'm wondering how that's going to handle being scraped. We're going to find out. And maybe the trick is, to put, maybe to wrap it. That would be kind of, but, put some kind of sheath on it, like electrical tape or something. But hey, it's better than having the paint come off. Now the real trick would be to find these in black, but the problem is they never made a wagon with the black upper interior. They only did a coupe, and the coupe I don't think had these in the back. I don't know. I need to find out. And I don't know if these fit another car. So if anybody knows, please mention in the comments if there is a GM part number that is this same handle in black. Same thing, these little things I think are exclusive to the wagon. I don't know if they came with a sedan as well, but this is for that little net cage you can put back here. I partially disassembled this dome light here just so to paint that exterior bezel. I left the buttons in their natural color, but that totally looks natural. Totally looks right. And it's coming along fantastically, swimmingly. I'm sitting in here and I'm like, man, why didn't this car come this way? It's a whole different vibe in here, dude. So worth it. So glad I did it. All right, we've got all of it put back together except for the two front pillars, because I'm going to be wiring in some dash camera and some other things. So I wanted to leave the front pillars off so I could route some cables. But all of the bezels have been painted. Everything is in. You could see, we got the seatbelt thing painted up here. I did buy visors and this control panel. That's all done. This whole bezel is black. Matter of fact, we can, let me hit the accessory here. Oh, I don't want my seat. Go back. Let's see. There we go. So the only thing that we couldn't figure out how to paint was the window shade. The only way thing would be to pull the entire sunroof out, disassemble it, and paint that thing. So we decided to just live with it, because I leave it open most of the time. I usually don't close it and shade it. And the thing should have been black regardless of the interior paint, because if you want to block out the sun, it should have been black in the first place. And now it really looks out of place. But like I said, I leave it open most of the time. I rarely ever close it. I love my sunroof. I like the panoramic view. And once it's open, you don't really see it. It's gone. And it looks fantastic in here. Completely different vibe in here. They really should have done the car this way. And obviously they figured that out when they did the new Alcantara versions. Really love the way the interior, look at it. It's just so black. So black. Got that new car smell, also known as fresh paint. I'm just really happy with the way it came out. The paint sticking good because we use that adhesion stuff and the good paint. So really happy with it. I hope some of the things that we learned helped you. There's just a couple of snags in it. So remember, we did this whole thing in one day, and you know, really, if we worked a little quicker, if it wasn't such a cold day, we probably could have done it just a few hours. I went through about, I don't know, maybe 6 cans of paint and the adhesion stuff. So, you know, what did I spend? I spent like less than $100, what, $70, something like that, in paint and prep. So if you want to count the can of alcohol, let's just call it $100, right? I had a quote. I went to an upholstery shop and asked them what they'd charge me to do a color change. They told me $1,500. Really? So I'm happy with the texture. I mean, this is all the same material, just painted black, and it's not like you're touching it. Now, I'm also not counting the fact that I did buy this control panel and these visors, and I forget exactly what I paid for them, but it wasn't that much. So let's just say I've got $300 in the whole project, and it's a whole different car, because I think I've got an advantage if I were selling this car and I showed pictures of this. It's drastically different than all the other beige or titanium CTSs that are out on the market. Very happy with it. So, hope you learned something. Sorry I'm rambling. I'm just sitting here in love with this. I'm just in love with it. Very happy with it. Hey, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for watching. I'm Videobob.